It's 6 p.m. UK time. This is Bless Radio, and this is the spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. I'm Saad in southeast London, where today has been really bright and cloudless, clear blue sky, and warm, getting to 20 degrees in London. And with me now is Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing, and how is the weather where you are?
Thanks for telling me the London weather. We have similar things here. Bright, clear blue sky, and very warm.
Great. So welcome listeners to the spiritual discussion program. As I said, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic for tonight is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. I'll repeat that. Strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. You're welcome to join us with your questions and comments. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for our discussion tonight is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio. Sorry about that. So the website where we're broadcasting is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. There you'll find a box called Bless Chat, where you can type in any question or comment. Now, listeners and Gregory, we always like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic. So just to remind us, the topic is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. So the first word there is strive. And I've got 2 meanings in the dictionary. The first one, make great efforts to achieve or obtain something. Make great efforts to achieve or obtain something. Gregory, what do you say about this meaning?
Thanks. It is helpful, but it's not precise enough.
All right. Let's look at the second meaning. Maybe that might be help better. That one says struggle or fight vigorously. How's that one?
It's also useful, but the picture which we should be using in this forum, it is usable, but it doesn't precisely point to the direction we wish to go.
Okay, in that case, I will ask if you can help us to give a better definition that we can work with.
Well, it's basically, one won't say a better definition, but a more specific. Right. When striving is mentioned, one is considering making great efforts, not only in discussions, but making great efforts in deeds, making great efforts in one's thoughts, and also making great efforts in one's intuitions. These 3 areas, these 3 different categories need to be highlighted, because it's on that base, on such a base, that one can consider for human personalities that are on Earth.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. so we must make note of that. I'm just going to repeat what you said there. So for this word strive, it is to make great effort in deeds, thoughts, and intuition.
Yes.
Okay, we'll keep note of that as we go further. Next word I have, the key word I would call it, cheerful. So I've got just one meaning for that one in the dictionary. It says noticeably happy and optimistic. Noticeably happy and optimistic. How is this one, Gregory?
That is helpful.
Good. Okay. Let's continue. The next word I have is volition. It says, again in the dictionary, to give me this meaning, the faculty or power of using one's will. Is that, how good is this one?
Again, is helpful.
Helpful, okay. And the next one is sublime, which I have two meanings. First one, it says, of a very great excellence or beauty. And they give an example actually, Mozart's sublime piano concertos. So of very great excellence or beauty. How's that one?
Yes, it is, but it's like open-ended. It's also usable, but it's still not precise enough.
Okay, let's see the second meaning. It is in brackets of a person's attitude or behavior, extreme or unparalleled. And they give example of that. He had a sublime confidence of youth. So the meaning is extreme or unparalleled. How's that?
That is also helpful.
Okay, very good. All right. And somehow I left out the word goal, which I'm going to now quickly look up. What does it mean? I guess we're supposed to know this. Okay, a goal. Oh, that's in sports. I'm going to leave that one. The second one, oh dear, that's also about, I need to find a better meaning. Just excuse me for that. I will find a better meaning here. They seem to be keen on football and such games, which I'm sure that is not what we mean. Okay, here we go. This is, a goal is defined as an aim or purpose or desired result that someone works to achieve. So, Gregory, what do you say to this? An aim, purpose, or desired result that someone works to achieve?
Aim and purpose are very helpful.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I'll put that down. 1 second. Aim or purpose. Now, again, I used Google AI just to get and see what it says. I searched the words exactly as the topic is. Strive for a sublime, I put it in a slightly different order. Strive for a sublime goal with a cheerful volition. That's what I put in. And then it says, striving for a sublime goal with a cheerful volition suggests pursuing a high, noble, or profound purpose, not with dread or forced effort, but with joy and enthusiasm and a free will. This approach aligns with the idea of that one's attitude towards a difficult, high stakes, or lofty goal defines the experience of achieving it. So, Greg, let me just break it down there. Let's look at cheerful volition. It's saying implies goodly deeds performed with a happy, willing spirit. The act of choosing to work hard, to strain every nerve, without becoming cynical or defeated, finding satisfaction in the effort itself. Is that a good, how can I say, description for this cheerful volition?
These things are helpful. However, there has been, as with many languages, as with many expressions, what has been lacking is that there is no reference point. There is no reference language. So it is open-ended. It is not bounded.
Right.
So you find that someone can come in and say, okay, the consideration, the domain is just what they see, a community or earthly deeds. And another person can come and say, okay, the domain is just in one's thoughts. You don't have to make any efforts physically. And another may even be referring to one's intuitions. So you find that there is no reference. There's no reference framework. And as long as the reference framework is not considered, then the ends are very loose.
Thanks a lot for bringing that out. And this reference framework is missing. Because, well, I was going to say one man's goal, maybe another man's, let's say, I don't want to say not goal, but maybe not be a noble goal, sublime goal. We are using the word sublime goal. And I was, in my mind, I was thinking, well, maybe two people the word sublime goal will mean different things to different people. And that may be where the lack of references framework is there. So, but let us not quickly jump there. Let us just keep reflecting, because the name of the topic, it's definitely something uplifting. Like I say, strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. So if you look at it in totality, it definitely gives something inspiring there. It's just, what is it, you can say, when we say, what is it, striving with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Let us start, let's start with the sublime goal now. Gregory, this sublime goal, who is it for? Is it for yourself, benefiting an individual, or is it for others, a whole of humanity? Who is this sublime goal meant for?
It is the individual first and foremost. For one cannot be striving for others when one has not got the inner clarity of what one is doing. So that which the individual wish to pass on to others, that the individual must first strive to possess, to understand the challenges, so as to know what the challenges are and then know how to share these challenges, on how to advise others on these challenges, such that we have that framework of one for all and all for one.
Very good. Yes, you start with yourself as an individual and then, broaden it out. So, okay, it makes sense, yes. Because you can only work with what you have. And then, yes, may benefit yourself and then others, as you say, all for one, one for all. Right, so now, Gregory, one thing I've observed many times, and I have mentioned in some shows in our past as well, where people have suffered tragedy, or a relative of somebody who has suffered tragedy it could be tragedy, it could be an injury, it could be a disease which has no cure, it could be some campaign like for charity, raising money for research, and even, well, let's say there are gaps within the law of a country or policy of a country where somebody who has suffered thinks there has to be some changes in that policy or law, government law, to sort of prevent what I'm not giving any specific scenario, but in general, where there has been, let's say, violent or some terrible harm done to an individual or some relative of the individual, where they feel that there's a gap in the law or in the government policy, which can be put that should be improved. That gap needs to be filled with something with a law or policy to. As I say, I can't think of exactly a cause right now. Let's say women's safety. You hear that maybe going out at night, women seem to be in danger, especially on their own. I mean, they seem to have some danger from attack by men or such situations, and it could be that the policy could be education or some sort of promotion of this type to improve people's thinking. And I'm just thinking of that one at the moment. So the point is, Gregory, I know I was going a little bit sideways. In a way, something has to go wrong for someone to stand up and say, look, we need to do something about this situation to help not only us, but others who can benefit from it. So these tragedies can bring something good out of it. Now, the point I'm trying to say is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. So people are already motivated in this type of, you could say, campaign due to the suffering that the people have suffered, who are starting the campaign. And of course, because of their own interest in this tragedy, they're very motivated, and of course they want to help others. That's the point. So, Gregory, would that be considered a sublime goal? That's what I wanted to say.
Well, thanks for this particular question. Sadly, very, very sadly, the human personality on many occasions need to undergo severe suffering, severe tragedy before it strives to awaken itself for the so-called sublime goal. That is helpful, but that which is sublime does not really require that the human personality needs to suffer. All that the human personality needs is to be awake in spirit, to be awake in thoughts and in deeds, such that many of these things which bring sorrow and tragedy can be avoided. Therefore, the need is there for vigilance and alertness, vigilance in accordance with the laws of creation through which the individual, through which creation itself came into existence. On such a basis, the basis upon which individuals or group of individuals strive, you will find that as long as they consider the laws of creation or the laws of nature, it will be joyful because there will be supports. There will be mutual support. It's like when an individual or a society, they have challenges, when they come together to unite their skills and talents, then joyfully, hand in hand, they are able to overcome that which holds them down. So, sorrow, strictly speaking, is supposed to be alien to the human personality. But because it has abandoned what alertness is, it has abandoned what vigilance is, you find it's only when it is struck through illness or through some other things, some catastrophe which could have been avoided, only then is it forced to wake up. Even in such, it is done grudgingly.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for putting this forward, that it doesn't have to be suffering that should result in a sublime goal manifesting, or that for us to have a sublime goal. It can be, when you said that, I was thinking of something, striving for peace. Yes, it could be coming out of a war situation, but it doesn't need to be. Peace automatically is a noble goal, and it doesn't have to be that you're having a war or violence to think about peace. You can have, let's say, a relatively, in quotes, comfortable life without violence or some terrible thing around you, and you can still have fought for striving for peace.
Yeah, but again, when you consider striving for peace, peace in itself is not a state of inactivity. Peace is a state where there is no undue exaggeration. That state in which there is the one for all and all for one, that calls for vigilance, that calls for alertness, that calls for kindness. In fact, the state of peace is that state which enables noble upbuilding, whereas that state of, in quotes, war, where you have destruction, that's, of course, is not noble, because in that state you have the decimation of a fellow human personality, or the weakening or the injury of a fellow human personality who, like you, has incarnated here on earth, who wishes to become self-conscious just like yourself.
Thank you, Gregory, for that point. Yes, I'm going to go a little bit further in this matter in a moment. I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Aprusheen. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space Grail Message, space the topic of discussion tonight, which is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Yes, and then after the show finishes, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. And again, you type the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail Message, space this topic, which is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. And we are also broadcasting is Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, let's look at trying to really, you could say, identify what is a sublime goal or example of some sublime goal. In a way, before I was looking at how could we, work for a sublime goal. But let's look for a sublime goal first. Yes, Gregory. Is a sublime goal something, let's say, spiritual rather than earthly? Because you can have a noble goal, and it could be earthly, and there could be also a spiritual one. So let's say if you're striving for peace, that could be considered, okay, that's an earthly one, but also easily we can say it is actually a spiritual goal, for your state of mind. It is, peace is very, very important. Yes, in the physical, for sure, but in a way more even for our spirit, you can say, to be at peace. So, Gregory, if I ask the question again, when we talk about a sublime goal, do we mean, can it apply to the earthly, or can it be only for the spiritual?
Strictly speaking, is all. It is not limited, only for the spiritual. For consider the human personality that is still on earth, that has the use of the flesh, and is of flesh and blood. That human spirit is here and now. And whatever goal it has created or is striving to aim at, that striving must be in accordance with the laws of nature, the laws of creation. In that particular scenario, you find that the volitions which the human spirit or the personality has will be such that the effects of his activities in deeds here in the material here on earth will be such that it is achievable. It is such that it's able, step by step, arrive at a goal which is helpful to it, not only in deeds, but also in thoughts. For the thoughts and the deeds are connected, or should be united. The same thing happens with one's intuitions. In that particular scenario, you now have the intuitions, the thoughts, and the deeds working hand in hand. What has been expressed intuitively, the sublimity, the sublime goal that has been expressed intuitively, now has an impact, an effect on one's thoughts, and one's thoughts has an impact on one's physical deeds, which deeds are recognizable using the five senses. So you find that as long as there is this unity, this connection between the three, then one's activities will be such that they will not consciously strive away from that which is sublime, and they will not knowingly do that which will be of harm to their neighbor. And one can now understand in the Lord's Prayer when it is said, "And lead us not into temptation." Because the error is always very, very near when many think, oh, well, we are striving after sublime goal, and they do not consider that this striving must be considered very carefully so as not to cause harm to their neighbor. So, because that particular state will be like a state of temptation. And as long as the human personality hold good thoughts, and one of the thoughts is that sublime goal, it becomes very vigilant. It becomes very, is also on the alert. It will try to refine its activities such that there is a balance within himself and also with his neighbors. That balance is such that you will find that there is the balance of giving and receiving. That means it is not one-sided. Such should be the way for those who seek that which is sublime.
Thanks so very much, Gregory, for these words. I like the, working, you could say, like in unity, in the physical deed, in thought and intuition. You work together. And you can see, as soon as you think about that, you can see, okay, if I only worked in the physical, that's the benefit is only in the physical. If I work with the thoughts only, then again it's in the world of thoughts that you see the benefit. And then finally, intuition, it's only limited in that way. But when you're working all three, it's spiritual and the earthly world that you're working in. And we are inhabiting that world. So it doesn't make sense to work only in one aspect of the world when you are inhabiting the whole of this world, the spiritual and the earthly. As you have said already, the benefit will be only one-sided, which doesn't make any sense. So thank you for that. Now, there's something people say a lot when they're going for some goal. Let's call it a sublime goal, and they say, believe in yourself, which is, the idea is to have confidence within yourself, that you can achieve this goal. Now, when I'm saying that, at the moment my mind is going towards, let's say, people are raising money for charity. I'm not saying that this is the highest sublime goal. I'm not saying that. I'm just using that as an example. So they're doing a run, let's say, where they're being sponsored to raise money for a cause. Let's call it a noble cause, sublime cause. Now, the person who is doing the running, he has got to train. Let's say it's a marathon. Of course, you can't just run a marathon just like that without any, practice beforehand. So, even I'm sure if somebody's done it in the past, they will still need to prepare lots of days and practicing. Now, and maybe initially, if they've never done such a marathon, they might even feel lacking in confidence that they can even achieve that, And so sometimes people say, "Oh, believe in yourself." I know I'm giving a specific example of marathon, but it's not necessarily has to be that. It could be any. Can I use the word project or scheme that you wish to, work in? So this, Gregory, so my question is really, to achieve something, one must believe in your own self. Now, the question in that comes to me, and the aim is to build the confidence to achieve that goal, whatever goal they're wanting to achieve. And sometimes I've wondered, when somebody says believe in yourself, could that be considered selfish, or is it actually beneficial to achieve the goal?
Most of these are expressions just to encourage the individual to get a start. For where there are many challenges, many are scared to even taking the first step. In order to overcome that challenge, many then say, okay, believe in yourself. You can do it. Believe you can do it. The problem has always been that unless the individual tries, if you do not try, how do you know that you can do it or you can't do it? At least make a start. And the other problems will be that for many, instead of starting in humble steps, someone who wishes to do the marathon, say next year, you do not expect that person, say marathon is about 26 miles, you don't expect that person to start doing it within an hour. And it's okay, I do the math, takes off and start running within an hour and all that. Of course, that won't happen. But if you have that individual starting with first half a mile. We don't know how long it takes these humble steps to allow the body to adjust and has an increasing effort along the line while increasing the distance to be covered in due course. Before too long, that individual will be able to cover 26 miles. Maybe the first time to cover 26 miles could be maybe a whole day or 2 days. But subsequently, it will start reducing the time required until finally it will come to a manageable time. For such people, it has taken humble steps, not just jump into it, but in considering the effort that needs to be made, also considering he himself or herself, when considering this particular challenge, it has split things into manageable chunks. And in that way, it adjusts itself. That means there must be a balance. There's a balance in the way the individual wishes to go to accomplish that which it needs to accomplish. Then that expression, believe in yourself, is helpful because you yourself can do it. You can get it only if you try. If you do not try, how can you then get it?
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. As soon as you started answering it, going step by step, it makes sense because obviously, if you think of marathon, nobody can achieve it in their first attempt. It requires a lot of energy, ruggedness, and whatever their, let's say, qualities or necessities there are. There's nobody who will have that just from the start. So step by step, you build up, and then, yes, as you say, it could take a year for someone to get to that level that they can actually achieve that goal. Initially, you might even be scared to even think of achieving something when you realize the effort that is needed. So rather than just give up, you said, yes, I believe in myself that I can achieve it. And yes, these words of encouragement from maybe other people rather than yourself to help you to, especially if those who have done it before, they know what is required and they can give these words, and then you can say, okay, they know how they did it, so now they're telling me, so now I should listen to that. So it's good building your confidence. Thank you for that. So now, Gregory, let's again looking at some noble causes or goals. Every one of us has faults, and let's say some of us would like to improve ourselves, which you could consider as removing these faults, although or being able to overcome these faults, whatever the fault might be. Let's say, what can I think of as an example of that? The moment my mind is escaping this. So whatever it is, maybe being late, whatever the fault might happen to be, it might sound a bit trivial. And keeping your promises, let's say you make promises to so many people and then you can't deliver. At work, maybe, could be anywhere, any part of life, any aspect of life. And then you're saying, oh dear, I made a promise and I couldn't keep it. makes me feel bad that I couldn't do it, and then people won't trust me. So you might think, okay, what can I do to keep my promise? And maybe you make a list, or if you make a promise, you make note of it, and keep, how can I say, track of it. That okay, I said I'll do it in a week. I'll check every day my progress, and then even maybe the person I promised what I promised, I will keep them informed, so they don't get a surprise when the week ends that I couldn't achieve something. They would have known, okay, that's how much I got so far, and in the end, I was so little bit short. Not that you're making excuses, but you're making an attempt to improve yourself. That was the point of this. So now, Gregory, this way that in quotes of measuring or keeping track, of, let's say, your faults and trying to improve on them. Is that a good way to approach them? And does it really ensure that you will not make a fault again?
Most of the time, many put some metrics. They put out some metrics. This is what they will do. This is the quantity they can do. This. Many of such turn out to be faulty, because that which is noble, that which is spiritual, that which is of benefit to the individual or to the society, that must be of genuine intent. And to build a genuine intent, it takes time. Why? Because there are challenges out there. There are challenges externally, there are challenges internally. Once the individual understands this very well, then in making movements, whether it promises or non-promises, that individual must, over time, have built himself or herself in small steps, such that in the process of doing that, if along the line that individual is unable to fulfill that which he himself or herself has planned, it becomes understandable. Effort, not just effort, but genuine effort, as long as it is genuine, it comes from the Spirit, it becomes self-evident. If, however, you have scenarios where someone says, okay, I will do this for charitable purposes, and you yourself are not aware that that which the individual has promised is not genuine, then it becomes a problem. Because there are many charitable organizations nowadays, or whatever one cares to call them, who pretend to be genuine. All that they're doing is clever calculations. The question is that, where does the individual belong? Is it clever calculation to deceive the neighbor? because he or she needs something, or not clever calculations. You do not start from the point where you start making demands. The possibility of receiving lies basically with the individual giving. For when the individual gives, there is a space which is now opened up, upon which that individual can now receive. Therefore, it is said it is better to give rather than receive. If subsequently along the line that individual haven't given the best they could and they have not yet received, it becomes understandable. It is not the individual who should be judging itself, but the laws of creation makes it possible for the individual to take the right step. Many a time you will find that the maturity, the spiritual maturity of the individual is not easily recognizable here on earth. Only when the individual has departed, that which it has woven for itself through its genuineness, through not only in deeds which are observable, not only in the quality of thoughts which only he himself can use and sense, but also the quality of one's intuition. This quality of the intuition which help to build an environment around the individual. So once you separate that which are observable in deeds, and once you separate them, all these ones are local things. They are not of the same worth as those things which are spiritual. In doing that, one should not forget to give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. That means to the material, give that which is necessary for the material. To the spirit, give to the spirit what is necessary. That balance in giving and receiving spiritually, that balance in giving and receiving in material deeds, that goes a long way. The individual must start with simple steps.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this picture and explanation you're giving. In regard to, well, my question was about faults and how to not reduce or minimize as such, but to overcome them. And through, yes, let's say there's physical things, but that's all you can measure anyway. It's the physical that you were measuring. But physical isn't the whole thing. It's, as you mentioned already, there's the spiritual as well. So if you just focus on one aspect, let's say the physical, so maybe, yes, you might have assisted to reduce your faults in the physical level, but then you didn't practice the other side, the spiritual aspect. So, of course, that hasn't improved, and we need to improve in all sides, in every aspect. So, when you reflect on that, then you realize, if you focus only, let's say I had made 10 mistakes in doing a specific thing at the moment, and then after focusing on working on them, you made it reduce from 10 to 5. it's not gone completely. It's focusing just on one's aspect is not sufficient. That is what you have clearly pointed out. So thank you for that. Now, and you've also talked about, yes, there's the physical deeds, there's the thoughts and the intuition, and they're supposed to work together. So I'm trying to agree. Let me put it a different way. So, let's call it the material or the physical way. That is sort of a mechanical process of, in case, say, if we're talking about faults, maybe a way of reducing or, removing your fault. That's on a mechanical way, which is the measuring way. But then there could be other faults, let's say with your thoughts, maybe. And if you're only doing this mechanical process, you are not working on the thought one. So and then there's also the intuition, and you also mentioned about balancing. Yeah, if you only focus on the physical deed, then of course it means you're not spending effort in the thoughts or in the intuition activity. So that means you're not going to get benefit in that department. So yes, thank you for that. I'm going to ask some more points about this in a moment. Before I do that,
come here and say something.
Yes, go ahead.
It is good to know that just as you yourself, you are here on earth to work hard on yourself to become self-conscious in deeds, in thoughts, and in one's intuitions. Self-conscious has to do with a realization, has to do with understanding the capability that the individual has. And in that case, it becomes quite easy to know that, oh, I am not able to fulfill that which I thought I should. Once an individual gets to that state, that becomes very helpful. Then he should apply it to others. Just as he himself or herself is unable to achieve a particular state because of the challenges, so also are others. In that state, he himself or herself will then realize, so we all have challenges. And automatically, he or she will start showing empathy on others, saying, that person made a mistake. I know, because I myself, I sense what the challenge is, haven't been there. If indeed you have overcome it, then it becomes quite easy to share experience. And in sharing that experience, that brightens the individual. In that case, just as you have shared an experience with your neighbor, that neighbor will share similar or some other type of experience with another person. So like a web, it spreads around. Just as many of us nowadays, using the so-called WhatsApp, you read some article which is so exhilarating and you share it with others. When you share these articles, be it music or whatever, that article, that piece of cheered you up, and you didn't hold it. You shared it with others to cheer them up. Before too long, you find you are able to gel with many because you know what the challenges are. Only that individual who has hungered is able to empathize with those who have hungered, because he or she who feels it, who has experienced it, knows it. And once the individual knows it, subsequently falls, he or she will not be searching for faults, but will be in a position where it can be of help to others, just as others will be of help to him or her. So this mutual thing, one should not think, oh, okay, I'm going to reduce my faults now. I'm going to be doing this one. All you need to do, that good volition must be genuine, must arise within the spirit. And that being the case, the individual should go forward in confidence, or one should go forward subsequently courageously, even if the person makes errors. You still need to go forward, learn from these errors, rectify the errors, and then move forward. That is what is intended.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for your response there. I want to say something on this, but before I do that, I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uptrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Yes, and we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail Message, space the topic of our show tonight, which is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. And after the show ends, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. Again, you type the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. And thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM /radio/bless radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, the topic tonight is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. It's not just strive for a sublime goal, but with a cheerful volition, meaning happy. You do something with happiness. Now, we've already mentioned, let's say you're working to run a marathon. It will be a challenge. It will be hard work. And there will be times when you feel, oh no, I shouldn't do it, or I should give up. But that obviously doesn't align with doing it with a cheerful volition. That is the striving for a sublime goal with a cheerful volition. That is what it is meant to be. There has to be joy in your heart. Now, Gregory, as soon as I think of that, I can see that is not a mechanical process that you can sort of inject or artificially produce this joyful, cheerful volition, Otherwise, it would be turning yourself into a robot that you just switch it on and then it is automatically in one mode of so-called cheerfulness. Human beings are not robots. So, Gregory, knowing that or being aware of that, so yes, Gregory, let's say we have some goal, sublime goal, and we are, as you said, we go step by step, and then we will fall at times, but we need to maintain, you could say, the momentum or the direction towards this goal. How can we, Gregory, I know we can't measure these things, but is it, Gregory, you just keep going, without giving up? When you say with a cheerful volition, I'm just trying to encapsulate this feeling of cheerful volition while you're doing a task. It seems not possible in every single attempt that you will have a cheerful volition, especially when you, let's say, fall over, whatever that happens to be, So when it says strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal, is that meant to be like 100% every single attempt you're having a cheerful volition, or it's just an attitude that you strive, is a striving?
Very good question you've asked, and one must consider the case of a child. A child that's, when you have a child, the first few months is on its back. Before long, it learns to sit, and then it looks around and sees that people walk. And then it tries to force to stand, because that longing to be able to do that, which it can already sense others are doing. The first time it may stand, and then maybe for a few seconds, and then holds on to something. Subsequently, it will hold on to something and take a first step and second step and go back again. Deep within the child is learning. That's what we call you prepare yourself or you plan. Even the child plans. It depends, the failure or the success depends on the depth of one's plans and the humbleness of one's plans. The case of the child that wishes to walk, that longs to walk, that has that cheerful volition to walk, one can see it in his face and will stop at nothing to ensure that it's able to walk joyfully, even if it has some big challenges. It will not be well. Even someone who is unwell, who wishes to get well again, will make that effort, great effort, to arrive there. Such efforts goes with, for the matured ones, goes with a plan, a thought of it, of what it needs to do to arrive at the target. Such are what many refer to as being daring. You do not expect that the first time that you need to walk, that you will not fall. True, the individual may fall, but learn the lessons of falling. Learn the lessons of failure. Those lessons that are learned in failure, they can be learned in two ways. The individual may take that failure and hold it within his thoughts or within her thoughts. The individual may take those failures and let it stream through one's intuition in pain so that it goes straight to the spirit. So that it is the spirit that has now learned. It becomes an experience in spirit. Two possible scenarios. Such that has touched the spirit may be in the states of sorrow, of pain. Or it could be in the states of joy or of happiness. Both joy or sorrow helps to awaken the individual in spirit. There it is held because it's an experience. Subsequently, there's a try and try and try again. What is not right is to refuse to learn the lessons of success or to learn the lessons of failure, or to say, oh, because all went well, you stop striving to improve on that which you yourself have experienced. Then you will find that as you move along in life, different challenges come. But because the individual has not internalized what these challenges are spiritually, he or she is unable to respond to these challenges. So, how should one move about this as naturally as possible?
Thank you, Gregory. In again, how you have answered that, this how we continue with this our cheerful volition. Is everything, as you've said, is all like a step-by-step, continuous movement, and so you will have, in quotes, your ups and downs, and it doesn't mean you stop, you give up, oh, I hit it down. It means I can't achieve it. No, there are ups and downs in the journey, so you shouldn't expect only up. And this is like a fantasy, so there isn't such a world like that. And in a way, those challenges are good to keep you strong and maintain the path that you have to work for that, not just keep thinking it's easy and then I don't put any effort anymore. So thank you for that. Now, there's a listener has sent me a question or comment. Let me just quickly make sure I have it in front of me before I go there. Let's see. Okay. They're saying, in these days of war, havoc, and desperation, it's a similar question actually, but anyway, I will say it. In these days of war, havoc, and desperation, how is one expected to strive with a cheerful volition? So, Gregory, this one is not about your personal sublime goal. I could say maybe, or it might be, somebody might be thinking of having peace in the world, and they're seeing, oh, this is the days of war and havoc and desperation. So how is one expected to strive with a cheerful volition?
Of course, it is possible, and indeed it is mandatory for the individual to strive with a cheerful volition. First step is that individual must put themselves in the framework where there are challenges. Take, for instance, something strikes you, or you're going through an area where there's danger. That individual must first prepare itself. If this, maybe one should do this. Not only in deeds, but also in his thoughts, and also in his intuitions. These are three different areas. What the individual is referring to as war is merely a precipitation of the confusion that is now experienced physically. That is what is referred to as war. Even in that terrible, terrible scenario, the individual in a neutral position can find its way out. I am reminded of some songs by some artists long time when we were in the university those days, when it said, wake up and live. When you are going through the rocks, do not complicate your mind. You must be free within yourself. And though the artist is long gone, years, almost close to 40 years, yet these principles still apply. For the individual must experience. The individual must go through challenges. It is how you respond to these challenges that really counts. There are individuals who go through a scenario which is so terrible. They are unable to move their bodies in the case of health. Yet, they are still able to achieve many a thing. There are some who are blind, yet they are still able to achieve many a thing. There are some who are dyslexic, yet they are still able to achieve. There are some who are deaf, yet they are still able to compose music. So there are many challenges. Each individual open to the challenges, neutral, in a neutral position, is able to experience and learn from that through which it is going. That doesn't mean it is easy. Be it joy or be it sorrow, that individual must be open to be able to perceive many things such that it will strive away from that which is not beneficial to it, which keeps it down. So, like you find the current situation in which we are, there have been scenarios like that in the past. But it is the individual that makes the decision from a neutral standpoint. Only from that point of view can one proceed. For when you harbor hatred, that is not helpful to the individual. When you find an opportunity where you can move away from that where hatred abounds, you are joyful. You may be fearful, but you are still joyful because you have found a way out of that. So it's quite challenging, no doubt about that. But only those who dare will find a way out of it. For where there is a will, a daring will, a way will be found. Moreover, many individuals must know that they are never alone. They are never alone because there are others who are not of flesh and blood, who jolt them one way or the other, who speak to them in their conscience, who jolt them such that they awaken to certain things, such that those scenarios which will have an impact, a negative impact on them, those scenarios can be avoided in the shortest possible time. Only when they ignore these suggestions and this jolting, only then you will find they just move way ahead and they're falling into it. Each individual must examine themselves. For many, if not all individuals, have been in scenarios similar to what is being discussed. Warfare is always, you find them in nature. Because here on earth, people are of various maturity. And those who are less mature are the ones who wish to precipitate the scenarios where others will be decimated.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. The listener has sent a second question, but I won't put it straight immediately. Before I do that, I want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and the This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we're also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail Message, space the topic title, which is strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. And then after this show finishes, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of the show also on YouTube. And again, you type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail Message, space strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Now, Gregory, the listener sent me this one question as well. Even with a devout and honest belief in the Lord God Almighty, His love, truth, and justice, how is the one to overcome the oft times mammoth task of everyday life in present times, without, if such exists, a guiding light and hand from above? So let me repeat that. It's quite some words. So even with a devout and honest belief in the Lord Almighty, His love, truth, and justice, how is one to overcome the oft times mammoth task of everyday life in the present times, without, if such exists, a guiding light and hand from above? Gregory, just to make sure, were you able to follow that?
Yes, I get the question. Well,
Yes.
thanks for this particular question, because it enables many to reflect very deeply. The key, which he himself or herself mentioned, is belief. Belief is one step. Belief in the Almighty. Belief in the will. Belief in the love. Belief that the individual has. that belief must become conviction. And conviction comes through inflexible weighing and inflexible examination. Hence, the forum such as this to enable the individual to move from belief to conviction. From belief to conviction is similar to seeing something out there, something which has manifested, which you are able to examine and weigh in deeds, but you yourself do not know what lies behind it. Belief is a starting point. Conviction is that state where the individual has weighed in accordance with the laws of creation or the laws of nature, has examined in accordance with the laws of nature or of creation, and the individual must know what these laws of creation, the laws of nature are, must internalize these laws. Then it must set out its volition, good volition, noble volition, on the attainment of that high goal. Then and only then will it become very clear to it what lies behind the manifestation of what he himself or herself has believed all this while. Then and only then will the individual say, free at last, free at last. Then is able to thank the Lord Almighty in the ability to decide, in the conviction that it has now acquired through inflexible weighing and examining. In that state, it has no question left, for it is now prepared to proceed forward courageously, for it now knows how to weave its path here on earth or hereafter, even if now it's only just beginning. Belief is only the first step. Such questions that has been asked are very important questions. For you hear many say, I believe. Yes, you believe, but do you know? Belief is not knowledge. Belief is what has been passed on to you, which you have not really understood. It's the understanding that really counts, here on earth or hereafter. So, yes, it is possible for the individual who believes to move forward, even in these challenging times,
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer, and I hope the listeners is able to um, um, understand what was said and find it useful for them. Now, trying to think if this is I know this might sound a little bit weird, but I like the news. There's always some interesting things happening, and it's good to think about what is in the news. So, for example, Gregory and listeners, we are hearing about this Artemis 2 mission to the moon, and although we've been to the moon before, and this one didn't even land on the moon; it was just to the moon. And the aim is like a step, as we're talking about step. The next step, they're going to build a base on the moon, and then another step will be to launch a rocket to much later to Mars. So these are all steps to get there. Now, Gregory, people are saying, "Oh, this is wonderful," and human beings are explorers. So going into space, that is one exploring, and traveling to other planets, which is, in that way of thinking, it sounds logical and maybe even noble, because they will result in these new inventions. That happens all the time when they were developing technology, which is obviously it initially is aimed for the traveling to the space and planet, but it comes in, there's some side benefit on the Earth with these sort of inventions, which we can benefit mankind. And then, but when we look at this, you see what extreme high cost there is to go on such a project, to go to space and traveling to this planet. And then one wonders whether that money could have been better spent to help people here on Earth, with where the people are suffering or deprived, parts of the world where there's food and resources are, and the people are underprivileged. And you wonder which goal is better. Isn't it better to have that money spent to help the people on this earth rather than going somewhere? Even there's some people saying, well, there's not even any life in these places. What's the point of going all to these places? Or is it something, on the outer surface they look altruistic goal, but maybe the real goal is they want to take the resources from those planets, like mining the minerals. I mean, I know it sounds very expensive and thing, but maybe that is one of the goal. And because, as you could say, there's even a race now currently between China and USA to fighting in space. Whatever resources or control of space. I mean, these are like political things, which people don't declare it. So, Gregory, the question, just to start it again, is it better to spend money on the earth to provide resources for people on earth who are underprivileged and deprived, or is it better to do this exploring to the moon and to beyond, which is very expensive? So the use of that, is it worth it?
Your question talks about the management of resources. And if the resources are assigned to projects which subsequently do not bring benefit as such to the people on the earth, then the question one may ask, why do we have to pour so much resources into these particular fields? Of course, researches can be done without having to, assign so much resources to these things. The so-called progress which is made by sending all these rockets to the moon, to outer space, and of course, people have their free will to decide if they wish to do such, because in accordance with the intellectual pursuits of many human personalities, they find it easier to move out of their environment and desire something which is far away rather than spend time in their environment improving it. To improve your environment is to share the knowledge which you have with your neighbors. For in that particular scenario, you will find that it's more like one for all and all for one. And that neighbor whom you look down upon may turn out to be the neighbor who has a deeper insight on how to proceed in these researches. So, you see, the human free will is such that the individual must decide, or the group of individuals must decide. Many a time, a lot of the resources which is available for public use are spent by a few individuals, not in quotes for research, but for their own selfish reasons. So you ask yourself, is it not better to search within your neighborhood and to ensure there is improvement rather than ignoring your neighborhood and pursuing that which is so far away, in which you know nothing about? Of course, there are other ways of doing these researches that are more beneficial. But again and again, the human free will is there. One may only make views known that it is more beneficial to spend such huge resources on improving the neighborhood. Even before talking about, rockets flying out, what about if you consider how much funds is spent on the build-up of armaments? They run into trillions. But the irony of this, while some are spending trillions in the upbuilding of armaments to destroy others, some other people who are not so powerful are making very simple gadgets that can equally do the jobs at a tiny fraction. The free will is there. So you find that while some, for one gadget, may put in almost 200 or 300 million, which in some scenarios cannot even achieve the results. Some only spend about 1,000 or 2,000 in currency to achieve something better, because they have reflected over it, they have planned over it, they have prepared over it. The free will is there. As to who decides what should be done, how it should be done, that is left for the individual or the nations to consider. But there are better ways of doing things and not so expensive. The early sciences, those who were able to make progress, the so called early sciences, did not spend billions. They spent very little. And they were able to make a headway because they had the cooperation of their intuitions with their thoughts and with the external deeds which they have.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer and pointing out, yes, we have free will. One can decide to follow a particular path. Another person can decide to follow a different path. And, it's not about, oh, this is right or that is wrong. It's like how much, what is it I was talking about some going up to the moon, and maybe on the surface they're talking exploration, but underneath the agenda could be, oh, there's resources there. Let's find a way, get there before someone else gets there, so that we can get our hands on it. The politics, they call it, or geopolitics is the word they use. And so that is the motivation. Is it to benefit mankind? Well, maybe one group of mankind, not the whole. So you can see that's the agenda there. But somebody else, he may be looking, yes, he might belong to one particular country, but if once he is able to develop a gadget, like you said, even in a not so expensive way, it could help a lot of people, the whole world, and not spend so much in the research and development. So yes, but it's the free will. You can choose to go one expensive way. You can go to do a cheaper way.
What one was referring to was the comparison between the simple drones made by others and then the other very expensive armaments. Before the advent of the plane, many did not even think of flying. And it wasn't these so-called very intelligent people who first invented the plane. Far, far from it. It were just simple mechanics who thought, oh, this is possible, let's see. And they kept going at it until, that being the case, not much was spent on it. And they were able to have the airplane, even if you flew for less than 100 meters. But that was the beginning. So when one look at the so-called drones, this is how these things go. You start very simply. You don't have to waste so much funds on it. When one considers the case of electricity, at the beginning, people had direct current, but it wasn't going to be helpful until somebody came along and said, no, let's do it this way. Not much funds was necessary, but it was done. So in a step-by-step manner, things can be done. The challenge comes when greed comes in, when people don't know what it means to be of support to their neighbor, not knowing that the more, the merrier it is, when there is knowledge, respect for others, such that the earth is purified instead of destroying one another, instead of planning to have instruments to destroy one another, the chemicals. Such a thing is not even considered. But in helping one another, they are able to build up. However, if mankind hasn't matured to that extent, you cannot ask them to give you what they lack. What many lack is that maturity, is that welfare, that well-being of the individual persons that make up mankind. This is what is lacking. And that is why you will find people will assign so much resources for a rat race.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this. Again, your answer there. Now, listeners, we've come to the end of our show tonight on the topic of strive with a cheerful volition for a sublime goal. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion. Now, I'd like to read from the foreword of the Grail Message, which is entitled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of the chaos of the present day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers to find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all the obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Atrushin. Dear listeners, if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Now, Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a very beautiful week ahead.
Same for me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Take care.